All right, guys, so this is part 3. This is decorating your 5 cylinders, and not the other 5, which will just be trimmed. So for these 5, I'm going to show you a couple different decoration techniques, all using slips. Those slips can be found over there on the wedging table or under the wedging table. We have a variety of colors, and you can use those for your pieces. So for this first one, we're going to do just straight up sgraffito, which is applying a layer of slip on your cylinder and then carving through it. So I'm going to apply one layer. For most of these slips, one layer is fine. There are a few where you need 2. The white one you need 2, the green as well. But this one is a black slip, and the other one is blue, and those are strong enough to where you can use one coat. So from this, I'm actually going to use a sharp tool and scratch into the surface a design. So I'm just going to do like a leaf design through here. And so that is sgraffito. You want to make sure you have some pressure applied to the surface, but what you're after is enough pressure to dig into the actual clay body underneath and reveal that pattern. From this, you can actually glaze inside the marks. That sets you up really well for surface decoration later on after your bisque stage. The next one is will be mishima. So I'm going to show you the setup for mishima. This one, I take any object I can stamp into the surface. Here I have a seashell. All I'm going to do is support on the inside as far as I can and press into the surface. What you're after is for some kind of depth change from the surface above. And what that'll allow you to do is, after you apply your slip, 1 to 3 coats depending on the color. Again, white and green need more than one color. Everything else just needs 1 coat. From this, you're going to let it stiffen up. You can kind of see it here where it takes the sheen and it's going duller as it dries. Once this reaches a bone dry state, you're going to take your metal scraper, which is in your pottery toolkit, and run it over the surface, scraping back this clay on the surface, but it will leave all of the slip in the marks below. That is mishima. You can also do fine line mishima, which means using your needle tool or a fettling knife and creating the same kind of sgraffito lines on the side of your piece, inlaying it with slip so that the whole line is filled, waiting for it to get bone dry again, and then scraping it again. And that will leave a very fine line that will show up in most glazes here at the studio. So that's mishima, both stamping and inlay. The next is resist. So for the resist method, I have prepared a few sheets of newsprint, long strips, as well as generic shapes. This one's kind of like a square. So for this method, you're actually going to dampen the surface of your cylinder so there's a sheen. You're then going to apply your paper resist onto that surface, dampen your sponge again, and you're going to run the damp sponge, not super wet, just damp, over the resist. What you want is for the water, the residual water in the sponge, to soak into the paper but not completely soak it. So once you have enough water, you're going to compress with your finger and you're going to lay down those edges so that the slip we're going to apply on top doesn't leak under that surface. So I'll then apply slip over the whole thing. And you can overlap sheets of paper, newsprint, to create other patterns. So I can have a sheet going across another sheet of paper for an added effect. But as long as you keep it moist, it should actually work and compress the paper into the surface. So once this sheen has kind of died down a little bit, I'll then remove the paper really fast, peeling away from the surface, and what that leaves is a very fine line. This also has many applications and you can use it in any number of ways. When you do not have a tab up top to pull from, like if I wanted a shape on the surface, like a square, I'm going to do the same process. I'm going to compress the shape into the surface of my cylinder, using the sponge as well if I need extra moisture, until all edges are sealed. From this, I'll apply my slip generously. What you can see is a slight edge surface difference between the paper and the slip. I'll then take my needle tool, I have another tool here, and I will gently run my tool underneath that paper, and then I'll pinch it and lift it off. And that's how you get a shape without that's fully covered in slip to get the same result. And that also shows up very well on glaze. And then carving. So similar to Mishima, this works same thing with your trimming tool with the right angle corner. I'm gonna just take it at a flatter angle this time and run it down the piece. You can hold like a pencil as well, whatever works for you. And this can also be used for Mishima or left as is, and you can use one of the Celadon glazes in the shop glaze room, and that'll add depth of surface with the glaze you use, because when that glaze pools in these areas, you'll get a color change, a very slight one. But this is the 5 techniques so far, and good luck on your cylinders.